Welcome to the WorldWire Update, Wyatt. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for more updates and thrilling short scenes. In April 2025, the Trump administration made a bold and controversial move by announcing a sweeping 25% tariff on all imported automobiles and automotive parts. This decision sent shockwaves through the global auto industry, as it marked one of the most significant interventions in international trade policy in decades. The stated goal was to protect American jobs and revitalize domestic manufacturing by making foreign vehicles and components significantly more expensive for U.S. consumers and businesses. Supporters argued that these tariffs would level the playing field, giving American automakers a much-needed competitive edge. However, the policy quickly disrupted the intricate and highly interconnected supply chains that the global automotive industry relies on. Automakers, suppliers, and dealers found themselves scrambling to adapt to a new reality where costs were suddenly unpredictable and sourcing parts became a logistical nightmare. Major automakers like General Motors, which had spent decades optimizing their international operations, now faced unprecedented challenges to their business models. The tariffs forced them to reconsider everything from sourcing strategies to pricing and production schedules. GM in particular was heavily reliant on imports from countries such as South Korea and Mexico for both vehicles and essential components. The new tariffs meant that a massive tax would be levied on a significant portion of its operations, threatening profitability and long-term planning. In response to mounting pressure, the government introduced a series of relief measures and exemptions. Yet these efforts provided only limited relief, as the core impact of the tariffs continued to ripple through the industry, affecting workers, suppliers, and consumers alike. For GM, the financial strain was immediate and severe. The company was forced to reevaluate its entire strategy, from investment plans to workforce management, as it struggled to maintain stability in the face of rising costs and uncertain demand. The situation sparked widespread debate and unrest, setting the stage for a dramatic clash between political ideology and economic reality. GM became a high-profile case study in the unintended consequences of aggressive trade policies as workers, executives, and communities voiced their concerns. Ironically, a policy designed to protect American industry now threatened the very existence of one of its most iconic companies. The ripple effects were felt not just within GM but across the entire American automotive landscape. As GM and its competitors struggled to adapt, they found themselves navigating a new and uncertain landscape, where the old rules of global trade no longer applied and every decision carried new risks. The fallout from these tariffs highlighted just how complex and fragile the globalized automotive industry had become, and raised urgent questions about the future of American manufacturing in a rapidly changing world. The tariffs hit GM hard, with a projected $4.5 billion profit loss for 2025. This drastic financial blow forced GM to revise its earnings forecast significantly. The company's EBIT and net income projections were slashed, reflecting the tariffs' impact. GM's cash flow forecast also took a hit, threatening its ability to invest in future technologies. Despite the financial strain, GM maintained its capital spending to protect long-term investments. The tariffs specifically impacted affordable models imported from South Korea, crucial for GM's market competitiveness. This highlighted the dilemma of tariffs harming consumers and product segments sensitive to price increases. When the threat of steep tariffs loomed over the auto industry, GM's leadership knew they had to act fast. The company's executive team quickly convened, bringing together top minds from finance, operations, and supply chain management to devise a comprehensive response. Their goal was clear: to mitigate the staggering $5 billion impact that new tariffs would have on their bottom line, and to protect the company's long-term stability. CEO Mary Barra took the lead, setting an ambitious target to offset at least 30% of these costs. She directed her team to pursue aggressive cost-cutting measures, streamline operations, and make strategic adjustments throughout the supply chain. One of the key pillars of GM's plan was to increase the use of US-sourced parts, reducing the company's reliance on imported components that were now subject to higher tariffs. GM worked closely with domestic suppliers, forging new partnerships and maximizing its U.S. manufacturing capacity to keep production lines moving efficiently. The company also ramped up production of battery modules in the U.S., supporting its growing electric vehicle lineup and ensuring a steady supply of critical components. At the same time, GM's leadership engaged directly with the Trump administration, advocating for policies that would support American manufacturing and help the company navigate the rapidly changing trade landscape. This multi-pronged strategy, combining cost-cutting, supply chain shifts, and proactive government engagement, was designed to give GM the flexibility and resilience it needed to adapt. By taking decisive action, GM aimed not only to weather the immediate tariff storm, but also to maintain its competitive edge in a challenging global market. Ultimately, this blueprint for mitigation proved crucial in stabilizing GM's finances and positioning the company for future growth, even amid unprecedented volatility. The tariffs forced GM to reconfigure its global production system. GM focused on maximizing output from its American facilities, like the Fort Wayne plant. Increasing U.S. production helped offset financial penalties on imported models. Shifting production required significant planning, investment, and time. The threat of plant closures loomed if mitigation efforts failed. GM faced additional pressure from a $500 million recall, compounding financial strain. The confluence of tariffs, supply chain shifts, and recalls tested GM's resilience. GM's strategy aimed to maintain operations and adapt to new trade realities. The company navigated a perfect storm of operational challenges. The looming threat of tariffs on imported vehicles sent shockwaves through the auto industry, triggering a sudden and dramatic surge in vehicle sales across the country. As news of potential price hikes spread, consumers rushed to dealerships, eager to lock in current prices before the anticipated increases took effect. General Motors, one of the industry's giants, reported a remarkable 20% sales increase in April 2025, far outpacing typical monthly growth. This spike was largely a temporary boost, fueled by consumer anxiety and the fear of missing out on affordable vehicles. However, this artificial boom essentially borrowed sales from the future, leaving dealerships and automakers facing significant planning challenges as they tried to predict what would come next. Despite the impressive numbers, GM executives were left uncertain about whether they could pass the full cost of tariffs onto consumers without severely impacting demand. The proposed 25% tariff threatened to raise vehicle prices by thousands of dollars, putting new cars out of reach for many buyers and risking a sharp drop in future sales. While the sales surge provided a short-term cash infusion for dealerships and automakers, it also masked the deeper long-term damage that tariffs could inflict on the industry. Beneath the surface, the industry braced for a slowdown, as the initial rush was likely to be followed by a period of weak demand and excess inventory. The consumer rush to buy reflected not just a desire for savings, but also a growing lack of confidence in the stability of trade policy and the broader economic outlook. This boom and bust cycle illustrated just how disruptive sudden shifts in trade policy can be, sending ripples through every level of the market. As GM and its competitors navigated this volatile environment, they faced the difficult task of balancing short-term gains with the looming threat of long-term challenges. The paradox of the pre-tariff sales surge left the industry on uncertain ground, forced to adapt quickly in a rapidly changing landscape. The tariffs plunged the auto industry into uncertainty, complicating long-term planning. Automakers like Stellantis pulled financial guidance, highlighting the crisis's depth. GM's mitigation strategy depended on variables outside its control, like supplier readiness. The company navigated a shifting landscape, making strategic choices high-stakes gambles. The tariffs diverted resources from innovation to crisis management. The industry focused on survival, slowing investment in new technologies. GM's future depended on effective lobbying and adapting to policy shifts. The tariffs' broader impact chilled investment and strategic thinking. The policy's long-term damage could weaken the industry's global competitiveness. By September 2025, GM's path forward was fraught with challenges and opportunities. The company's mitigation strategy aimed to offset 30% of the tariff impact. Success depended on executing cost-cutting and operational shifts. The push for U.S.-sourced parts could yield lasting benefits if managed well. GM's fate rested on policymakers in Washington and potential tariff rollbacks. The tariff crisis tested GM's financial resilience and strategic foresight. The road ahead balanced economic pain with opportunities for a stronger production base. GM's ability to adapt would determine its leadership in the global auto industry. The crisis was a defining moment, forcing a reevaluation of GM's global model.